the address by Pete Hegseth, you know, the generals and the admirals, and they were all having to be seething with contempt, going, wait a second, I left my troops,
right.
I left the forward positions that I had been put in to defend America and defend American interests across the globe, to come have this guy lecture me about warrior ethos and some bizarre pep rally. And then Donald Trump came up, and as we said yesterday, again, it was like a campaign speech that you might have seen late in the campaign. That was Willie up until the very end when, as the Wall Street Journal says, Donald Trump told our military leaders that he may want to use the military against Americans, saying the enemy within, talking about using the United States military to train. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care how MAGA you are. I don't care how long you've been supporting Donald Trump. You know, that's a serious breach. That's a breach not only of military tradition, that's a breach of the law. It's a breach in every way. There is no way. And I know right now watching, there are Republicans in the Senate. There are Republicans in the House who understand what an extraordinary breach that is, what he said was, and now is the time, because they held their right hand up and they took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the laws of this land. This would be a pretty good time for them to actually execute that oath and say, no, we don't use the United States military to attack Americans. We don't use the United States military to fight, quote, the enemy within, especially when Donald Trump is now defining enemies as public interest groups that oppose his politics.
I think in many ways, both Secretary Hegseth and President Trump were surprised. They expected kind of a rah-rah pep rally, and they didn't get that from the people, as you say, who'd flown in, men and women from all corners of the world, left their posts to listen to Pete Hegseth lecture them about warrior ethos and wokeness in the military and everything else. They didn't get the response they expected. In fact, there were a couple of moments where Pete Hegseth sort of paused for a laugh or applause. Did everything but the Jeb Bush please clap, and these generals and senior leaders just sat there and watched, wondering what on earth they were doing there.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today guys, we want to talk about this video that has been making rounds on TikTok. Let's talk about something very serious. Donald Trump actually told our military leaders that he wants to use them against American people. Think about that for a second. The military is supposed to protect the nations, not a personal weapon for one man. This is dangerous. It's not leadership, it's dictatorship vibes. When a president talks like this, he's basically saying democracy doesn't matter. He's saying the people doesn't matter. He just wants power for himself. And remember, this isn't the first time. Trump has always shown he doesn't care about rules or freedom unless it helps him. Using the military against citizens, that's what dictators do in the countries with no right, no free speech, no justice.
That he may want to use the military against Americans, saying the enemy within, talking about using the United States military to train, think about this, to train on attacking Americans. That is, I don't care what party you're in. I don't care how MAGA you are. I don't care how long you've been supporting Donald Trump. You know, that's a serious breach. That's a breach not only of military tradition, that's a breach of the law. It's a breach in every way. There is no way that even Donald Trump's biggest supporters didn't hear that yesterday. And a part of them said, wait a second. That's just not what we as Americans do. We don't use the United States military to go after and attack Americans and use American citizens as, quote,
This right here is a picture of America's top military generals listening to Donald Trump give his rambling speech today where he insulted them, he insulted our country, he declared war on American cities. Like, this man right here is the perfect representation of how this speech went. These are military leaders in the United States from different bases all over the world, Asia, Europe, of course here in the United States, and more. Just look at their faces, all of them. And that tells you exactly how this speech went today. During Donald Trump's tirade, he insulted their weight, their leadership. He said we're going to use blue cities as military training grounds and essentially declared war on American cities that he doesn't like. And multiple times throughout Donald Trump's speech, he asked for these military leaders to clap. He was essentially begging them to applaud him. He called the room silent. Now, these military officials are meant to be nonpartisan. They're not meant to clap or boo or anything like that. But remember, in Donald Trump's first term, our military actually stood in the way of his dictatorial tendencies. And so hopefully the men and women in that room do so once again.
The United States of America is facing an emergency tonight. And no, it is not the emergency of the clock ticking to midnight without legislated funding for the American government. We've seen that clock tick to midnight before on nights like this. The emergency the United States of America is facing tonight is an emergency the United States of America has created for the world. And that emergency is that the President of the United States, in his public appearance today, proved that he is mentally incapable and emotionally incapable of fulfilling his constitutional duties as President of the United States. In other words, there is no President of the United States as we knew it. There is no functioning intelligence, no functioning judgment mechanism within the mind of the current holder of the title, President of the United States. And that person is also the holder of the nuclear codes that could destroy the planet in seconds. And he is, much to the horror of the commanding officers of the American military who listened to him today, the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world.
Donald Trump is getting mocked by the very generals and admirals that attended today's disaster of a meeting. Now, if you missed it this morning, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth called together all of the top military leaders to have a little campaign rally of sorts and try to get them on their side. They were looking for applause and admiration from the military leaders, and instead they got silence and ridicule. Now, after the meeting, many of them spoke to the press, many of the leaders, of course anonymously, and this is what they had to say. More like a press conference than a briefing of the generals. Could have been an email. And the worst yet, not quite a loyalty test, but on the spectrum of loyalty to ideology. Total waste of money. That is the response that Donald Trump got. And instead, what he was looking for was for them to cheer for him. In fact, he even said that they could applaud if they wanted to, thinking that when he would say, hey, we're going to go into our towns and our cities, and it's going to be your responsibility, that they would say, yeah, go Donald Trump. Instead, he's getting mocked. What an embarrassment.
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear, bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
Trump is the king of trolling. He released another video trolling Hakeem Jeffries. Oh my gosh, man. And it's the whole like racist card is so tiring.
So a lot of us in the United States know how much of a joke Donald Trump is. But we're starting to find out just how much of a joke he is to the rest of the world as well. You see, Donald Trump's antics haven't made America safer or stronger. They've just made us the laughingstock of the entire globe. And that was on display in Copenhagen today during a summit of European leaders. Check out this exchange between the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, and French President Emmanuel Macron.
You should make an apology to us. Because you didn't congratulate us on the peace deal that President Trump made between Albania and Azerbaijan. I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
You see, the Prime Minister of Albania was mocking the fact that President Trump continues to confuse his country with the country of Armenia. Donald Trump loves to brag about the fact that he resolved a long-standing conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, except he can't seem to remember that Armenia is the country involved in the conflict, and he keeps confusing them with Albania, a country that's hundreds of miles away and has nothing to do with the conflict.
I saw words that was unsolvable. Azerbaijan and Albania, It was going on for many, many years. To think that we settled Azerbaijan and Albania as an example, it was going on for years.
Now, I know most Americans don't understand the complexities of transcontinental disputes in the South Caucasus region, but if you're going to be the commander-in-chief and brag that you had something to do with ending a dispute, you should at least know the names of the countries involved in that dispute. It's also important to point out that the only reason Donald Trump got involved in the Armenia and Azerbaijan conflict in the first place was so he could develop a land deal in the two countries. Trump struck a deal that gives America the right to develop a transit corridor between the two nations. It's a 99-year plan in which America will control land in the region. America will then sublease that land to American developers who will go over there and build railroads and gas and oil lines and fiber optic lines. On the face of it, it doesn't sound that bad, but Russia and Iran have condemned the deal, claiming that we're encroaching upon their territory. And of course, Donald Trump had to put his name on it. He's going to call the corridor the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. I wouldn't be surprised if we see golden skyscrapers going up in the region as well. Imagine if Jimmy Carter only brought about a peace deal between Egypt and Israel just so he could develop a peanut farm in the region. That's who your president is. That's who Donald Trump is. Everything he does is a long con designed to enrich himself and the billionaires he surrounds himself with.
I'm not going to be intimidated by the likes of Donald Trump. I have always tried to speak my mind and do what I thought was right. And clearly, there is a corruption and a perversion of the justice system right now within the executive branch. I don't know what may be coming my way, but I'm not going to do things that are inconsistent with my ethics and my values. I think more people have to speak out. When they see a government that is abusing its authority and its power, I think more and more people have to speak out because the damage that's being done to this country and the dangerous times that we're in, I think too many Americans do not appreciate the extent of that.
America fights for generation to make sure the military serves the people, not the president's ego. If we don't speak up, this same playbook could come back, and next time it could be even worse. So let's be clear. Trump is not strong for saying this. He is dangerous. He is not defending America. He is threatening it. And anyone who loves democracy should reject this idea. Thank you for watching. Stay awake, stay strong, and don't let them rewrite histories.